The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming,
When I
visit our
heard it, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
That
I'm more worried about the precedent.
But we charge them.
Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly.
Yeah, not a problem.
I just,
What page are we on? 37.
It's more personal.
Okay, one of each.
over there.
Grab your Snickers bars. Or your.
Everyone. How are you?
Mr. Mayor, the next budget's the city attorney's budget. It's on page 39, or actually page 37. There's a slight decrease, but there's a little change on personnel that we want to talk about regarding city attorney or deputy, I guess it's deputy city attorney?
Assistant city attorney.
Assistant city attorney, or, you know. Lynn, if you could just talk about that, because I think it's something that, even though there's a technical reduction in the budget, this does,
Last
we were
year,
talking about.
last year we had transitioned our outside prosecutor into a part-time city employee position, and he has a private practice. Some things have changed with his private practice. He needs to focus on that, so he is going to be leaving us. When we found that out and reviewed the position, it was actually after I submitted my budget, but took a look at it and decided, even in the range we're talking about, we can transition to a full-time assistant city attorney. We probably won't get somebody with the depth of experience of our current prosecutor, but I feel pretty confident we'll get a good candidate and get somebody that can come in and will do a good job for us. We're actually advertising right now. The deadline is Sunday, November 5th at midnight. So we have another week here for the applications to come in. There are the changes that are in my budget kind of relate to that. There were a couple of things that last year when we transitioned him to in-house, we had to buy some more equipment and stuff. We have that equipment now, so those things came out. He was already on the insurance, so that stayed the same. So it's really kind of minor changes in the budget, and those are basically all the changes that I had in my budget.
Lynn, you had some potential budget cut, elimination of conference and training books and periodicals. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, you got them only because we were told to give you something. Obviously, that would not be something I would recommend, because we do need the conference and training to keep our CLE credits up, our continuing legal education credits up. We need the the money in the books and periodicals to do legal research and to keep up to date on things that are current. Unfortunately, because my budget is just so heavy on personnel, when I'm asked to offer something for cuts, I just don't have much else to offer.
Would that increase though if you're talking about bringing in somebody? Is there additional?
I didn't increase it because we had some in there for Brad's position already that we paid for some of his city designated training and part of his state bar this last year. We paid he was a 0.6 employee. I think we can absorb that, the little additional in. I'm going to have some extra in my conference and training this year and next year because of typically we would do both the state bar conference and the league conference, and they are overlapped. They're on the same dates. So I didn't propose an increase because I know for at least this year and next year we aren't able to do both. So there's some extra money in there as it is, and you know, potentially in the future I'd have to look at that, but not for this year or next year because I know we won't spend it out with that overlap.
Where that position, Mark, funds are, kind of handles court cases and things like that, are other departments help fund that position?
The inspections fund is funding a portion of that position. Okay. I believe there's a revenue into the general fund from that, and that was part of the whole rental inspection program. And
right. That's what I thought.
Mr. Zarate just briefly mentioned it in his presentation, but that was part of the idea on the prosecution side because we do need to make a presence, and that was something that we discussed with the judges, a couple of the judges, when we were going through the municipal court issue. Is, you know, then you're going to see us more. You're going to see us. We're going to be in court more. You know, understand why?
Right.
Because the enforcement side of it is the only way we're going to be able to make any headway in some cases, and the prosecutor is going to be a big part of that.
Steve, it'd be on page 314. It's actually right under their personnel schedule is where those costs are shown.
Now, does that position also do the police departments?
Yes,
Okay,
all
so
of the prosecutors.
There's some money in the police department budget that helps fund that?
That's general fund, so it's the same bucket of
Okay.
money. Inspections is a separate bucket, so that's why we do charge them. I mean,
Right.
we could, but it's all the same money.
Okay.
That's about it for the city.
Is that position, one last thing,
I'm sorry.
is this, now that we lost someone who was a prosecutor at one time and who also ended up in, you know, courts, traffic courts, are we focusing, or are you trying to focus on more of a general? You know, because city attorney is a broad, you
Yes.
cover a ton of things, and I know you, when we get into certain things, we have to hire outside counsel, but are you looking more towards somebody that would have more prosecuting experience or more general attorney experience in what cities would be?
We're still estimating about 60% of the time would be prosecution. So if we get somebody with that experience coming in, it would be less training to get them up to speed on the prosecution. They might have an edge. I didn't limit it in any
Okay.
way.
You just did a kind of a general city attorney type position
Yeah.
posting.
If they look at the job description, it does lay out the duties and responsibilities, and it does indicate that a bigger portion of that might be prosecution, but there are other things under there as well.
The downside is it will be a relatively inexperienced attorney, and the downside
Yeah,
for
because of
Lynn-
the entry-level
Lynn's gonna have
salaries
to,
and things.
I mean, Brad, she could like run on autopilot. 'Cause
Right.
Brad's an experienced prosecutor and everything.
Right,
This, Lynn will have to, a little more supervision.
okay.
Or I may get lucky and
You
find
never
someone
know.
who wants to change. And
Take a pay cut, probably, too.
it depends where they come from.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's all I think we have for the city attorney's budget. That's why we put them right after lunch. This was our catch-up mode. I think the city clerk is also has a similar, oh, you were borrowing, I didn't realize that.
It is cold up here.
Very cold up here.
Oh,
Maybe we should just leave
No,
this
I
down
was
there.
No, I was
You're
worried.
City
dressed
clerk's
weather.
budget, I don't know if James would want it, though.
Probably not.
I'm sorry, the city clerk's budget's on page 41. This will be sort of the mid four-year cycle for the city clerk's office in terms of the elections. The city clerk's budget itself is proposed to go up, but elections is the big increase because with the gubernatorial elections. But there's increase in the city clerk's budget in general, and I believe that's for, I think it's just a change in, what is it? What's the big increase there?
The increase
Oh, the overtime.
is the overtime, which covers Ange and Emily in my office. It's really for election, but they get paid out of my city clerk budget.
But it's all election related.
Related, yes.
But the budget for the elections on page 45 is really where the large increase is, and that's because you're doing so much more in terms of early elections, early voting, and things like that.
Well, and going from 2 elections up to 4, and with the governors, will be quite busy. But other than that,
The poll worker's always recruiting, always training.
I'm always looking.
just, this is more, maybe Trina can answer it.
Yeah.
Looks like a 4.43% increase on the deputy clerk's position. Is she at a step grade level to get an increase there plus across the board?
She would not be in steps.
Okay,
What I am wondering is, in these smaller budgets where it's more camouflage, where there's more employees, PFP is budgeted, so pay for personnel is budgeted in that unclassified.
oh, okay.
And so if they receive the full amount of PFP, it catches up that next year because it's then, and they apply it into their salary base, catches up into their salary.
All right, thank you.
Any questions?
Chris? Might be 2 minutes
Something
ahead.
on your, in your budget, they eliminate comp time for deputy clerk election aid, what, do they get comp time, or do they get overtime? Or they can convert it to comp time?
It's comp time. That was basically my only area that I could cut, would be
Right.
the comp time. That would mean that when the individuals are here to vote, they would be our priority, and then our filing and our other routine jobs would wait until we were able to get to those. In the past, we would handle the customers at the counter, and then after hours, we're doing all our other things, the council minutes, filing of the various documents that we have in the clerk's office.
Yeah, it's such a minimal amount, I don't know that what it would affect in our strategic plan may not be a good thing.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thanks, ma'am. See you later.
Back on schedule, I'm happy to report.
All right.
Now to slow us back down again, Public Works. This is the one budget that we are not doing CIPs because the massive amount of CIPs, that's the, next week's meeting, whatever date that is, that's,
November 15th.
oh, I'm sorry, oh, you're November 15th?
The budget workshop 6 is November 15th.
Okay, November 15th, so that's where CIP will get discussed for Public Works and Utilities, just because of the massive nature of that. Public Works begins on page 127. Looks like streets is first out of the gate, or are we doing admin first, James?
No, my intention would be to go streets, central garage, recycling, garbage, then get into the utilities, and wrap it up with engineering and administration.
Okay, so you want to skip over engineering and administration for starters?
Yeah, we'll save those till the end, and that way we can cycle Kevin, and I don't know, is Travis joining us when we get to the garage, Kevin?
Travis and Bob,
Okay, so that way we can cycle through and get those guys back over to field ops and working on their stuff, and then we'll pull Steve up as we get closer.
Okay, well then streets begins on page 135. And streets is proposed to go up 1.4%. Again, you're gonna see with some of the equipment operators, just a minor increase, because there is turnover, so a lot of them start at the lower end. But we're still, it's only about $40,000 increase across the board for everything, including insurance, where there's a decrease. And I think when you have a larger department, the dollar decrease for health insurance, that's where you really see that savings kick in. Streets, the other big thing is sodium chloride. There's a slight decrease, and our usage for this year is projected to go down because we had a very mild year, and we started the year with a full shed, and so to replenish it didn't cost as much. You'll see back in 2015 when we filled the shed, it wasn't necessarily because we had a bad winter, but I just wanted to make sure that shed was filled. And now that we've got the shed filled and we kind of use that as our base, we're going to be hopefully a good year like this, 153,000. But knowing what our costs are for salt, what we anticipate might be happening in 2018, which your guess is as good as mine. But that's still down slightly over 2017. And fuel, and that is in central garage. That's why you're not seeing that here.
James, on 6450, looks like this year we have 56,000 in the engineering and consulting fees.
Yes, we're having a consultant conduct the biannual PACER rating of all the streets in the city. Because we did not have staff availability to get that significant amount of effort completed.
So originally that was going to be done in-house?
Originally, we were going to try and get that done in-house, and as we worked through the summer, we recognized that our project load and our workload, we weren't going to be able to, so we brought a consultant in and they're almost done with the field work right now, and we'll be working on getting things uploaded to the DOT.
And that's, excuse me, that's a statute requirement, correct?
We're required by the DOT to do that every other year in order to maintain our funding.
Do you have any highlights that you want to share with council?
Yeah, I
in
think.
regards to your streets budget?
Yeah, I think, the streets division, just a little bit of, background about, some of the primary focus and purpose. The primary focus of streets is to maintain our infrastructure. That includes not only the streets themselves, but the sanitary system, the storm sewer system, and, our regional stormwater management practices. So, staff at Streets Division do a lot more than just streets. They also provide a significant amount of services to other departments. Community development, they assist with demolition of a lot of structures on acquired properties. Over at Parks, Streets Division's been helping them with a number of projects. Transportation, helping them with some paving projects as well. From the water utility standpoint, Streets Division does all the asphalt patches over the water main break. So if there's a water main break on an asphalt street, Streets Division's doing that patching instead of hiring a contractor to do it. Sewer and stormwater utility, all the televising and maintenance of the sewers and manholes is also done by Streets Division. Mark mentioned the sodium chloride. We're very weather dependent on that particular line item. The current budget number does assume full cost for the 2017-18 contract through the DOT, plus an estimated 2,000 tons for early fill in case we have a bad winter and we need that early fill to get the shed filled back up again. That's how we prepared the budget. And you may notice a little bit of increase in overtime pay as well. That's really related to staff taking more payout than taking compensatory leave for their overtime.
James, so if the predictions for this winter are even close to accurate with colder temps, but not necessarily more snow than perhaps last year. What does that do to the salt budget if that comes to pass?
The challenge would be if we get any kind of precipitation, during those cold weather snaps, we're going to use a lot. I think this past year, we didn't have as much in or in snow, but we did have a lot of freezing rain events that, used a significant amount of salt as well. So, certainly if it's cold and we get any kind of precipitation, we would certainly use more.
But isn't there a temperature at which it doesn't help us?
Yeah,
There's something else that you have to do besides salt?
There are other compounds that are significantly more expensive that you could use at colder temperatures, but sodium chloride is the most cost-effective, but it also has the highest temperature where it ceases functionality. Kevin, whereabouts at street pavement do you normally cut that off?
Well, the pavement temp has a lot to do with it, and that's what James is referring to. But what we've been doing over the last several years is we use more salt brine, basically a salt water solution. We apply it to the salt. It does work at a little lower temperature, but the other chemicals like James referred to are actually more corrosive, even though they work at lower temps. Then you get into equipment damage as well as everybody's vehicle. And so we've avoided going that route, and the salt's effectiveness starts to diminish around 28 degrees. You start losing it already.
And that's at the pavement temperature, not air temperature.
At the pavement temp. And then obviously as the temps go down, reduces even more. We've been successful with dealing with it for the most part. It's, those storms early in the year where the air temps are actually higher, and you get that wet, heavy snow, and they, start to bond to the pavement with the traffic. And that's again where we use anti-icing, which is the brine, to try and prevent that bonding of the ice to the road.
So what does that take us down to then, from 28 to like the temperature that the
effectiveness of the
diminishes?
brine and the salt. When you start getting close to 22 even, the effectiveness goes.
The brine doesn't
Yes.
work so well.
Right.
And all the supervisors' trucks have pavement temperature sensors on them, so they are monitoring that pavement temperature while the crews are out and about and making adjustments as needed.
And the salt, I mentioned in my budget message, the salt budget's been way under, and that has really helped us the last couple of years maintain our budget, our overall general fund budget. We're razor thin on both revenues and expenditures. The expenditure gap that we have to keep it below budget is primarily due to this and fuel, which you'll see when we get to Central Garage. But if we had some swing in prices of either salt or salt usage because of a bad winter or fuel prices spike or something like that, the general fund would have a tougher time balancing. I think the razor thin margin was like 0.1% on the expenditure side and just 1% on revenues. So it's pretty razor thin. So there will be a bad winter. I guarantee you. I just can't guarantee you when. But when it happens, that's what you have a general fund balance for. It's been helping us the last couple of years add a little bit to the general fund balance, but I just have to forewarn everybody, and it's usually when James comes in with a good budget, it's like, thank these guys for balancing everybody else. And don't beat them up too bad if there's a bad winter.
Okay, if the council, do you have any further questions on streets? If you don't, we can move on to the central garage on page 140. James, do you want to start with some high level?
Yeah, I think, a little bit, the focus of Central Garage is to maintain the vehicles and equipment within the Department of Public Works and to assist other departments with their vehicle and equipment maintenance. As was mentioned earlier, Central Garage also provides all the diesel fuel and unleaded gasoline to the entire city fleet of vehicles with the exception of transit. The division also assists in writing specifications for vehicle purchases that are approved in the capital improvements program. I think, city manager mentioned it a couple of times. The overall cost of diesel and unleaded gasoline is the biggest wild card in the Central Garage budget, because Central Garage does manage the fuel depot for the entire city. All it takes is, a weather event in the Gulf of Mexico or something else in the Middle East, and fuel prices skyrocket, and that's the big challenge with this particular budget.
The one thing you might want to talk about is I believe that's where you had your proposed budget cut.
Yeah.
And any potential impact of that being.
Yes, thank you, Trina. As we looked at potentials for reducing costs, we talked about salt in streets, but another possible way would be to try to be maybe a little more aggressive on what we think fuel prices might do. I took a look at the national average from the past few years and compared to what our bid prices were, and that's really the only way in this particular division we could potentially do some savings, is to trim a little off our budget estimate of what we thought fuel might be.
Does the council have any questions on the Central Garage budget? Okay, then we can continue on. That would bring us next to the recycling budget. This is a budget that is outside of the general fund. On page 145.
James, you were going back to the Central Garage. What was the
Sure.
$10,000 capital outlay in 17?
A sign.
Originally, we were looking to, we still haven't put up the
Travis.
sign that this is the field operations facility outside the new building, like we have a city hall sign, we
Okay.
have wastewater treatment plant sign. So we had gotten a quote to put up a sign, so that's what that 10,000 is. We
Our
haven't
sign
committed.
department can't make a
Yeah,
sign?
it's an expensive
We
sign.
haven't committed to that yet.
Not that type of sign. I
Oh, you
think
want more than the,
Mia?
more than a street sign.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
I think
It's actually designed exactly like the one at wastewater treatment.
Oh, okay.
the monument sign out front there was
sure.
recently
Yeah, sure.
replaced.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
No, that's all right.
Point.
Sorry we missed that before we jump forward. Was there anything else on?
so then on page 145, recycling.
This budget for recycling, is that based on what we get from the county in tonnage, or how's this get all put together?
There is a revenue in there for the reimbursement for the recyclables that are sold. A large part of this budget would also be the grant from the recycling program at the state level. This is not a levy-funded program, as it's independent of the levy now. And so the other significant or contributing revenue would be the user fee.
Oh, okay, the
that
cart
is
fees?
paid.
Right, yeah, the state grant program, if you will, the state collects a fee on all refuse that goes to landfills, and that is used to fund the recycling program, and responsible units or local units of government that participate. There's a fairly lengthy submittal where we have to go through and outline all of our program costs, and then we apply each year. As long as we apply by the beginning of October, we would get 100% funding, and we had submitted the grant this year about mid-September, and then Bob, when do we have to do the final numbers?
Final numbers will come in March of 2018 for our final numbers of 2017.
So once all the financial information is completed, then we're able to submit all of our final numbers for 17 and early 18. A little bit of high level, if I can, I'll get right back to you, Lori. The primary focus of recycling is to educate our residents and property owners on proper recycling and also to collect recyclable materials from residential properties. Recycling division collects 3 units and less?
4 units.
4 units and less, thank you, Bob. The yard waste drop-off site is also managed and operated by the recycling division. And the recycling and garbage divisions continue to be among the highest rated scores on the annual citizen survey. Overall, I believe we're seeing a slight reduction in proposed budget for this year, or for next year. And one of the things we did want to point out, due to the amount of time it takes to actually construct vehicles, generally our trucks that are budgeted in, like our 16 budgeted trucks and purchased in 16 actually get delivered in 17, and so the one that we ordered in 17 will get delivered in 18, so there is a fairly significant lag there as well. Sorry, Lori, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna ask about the key performance measures. I think I asked this last year in the budget cycle. I'm asking it again. So when we say that our mission statement is to maintain the recycling program to reduce the amount of solid waste going to the landfill, and then we look at the key performance measures of increasing the volume of recycling material collected, we show that we went from 4,262, 4352, 4421. Is that tons?
Yes.
That's tons, yes.
Okay, all right. So then that's the tonnage of recycled material collected. Do we have any way of measuring, like, how much we actually decreased solid waste from going to landfill?
Actually, with that, that's just the number that comes out of the county that we give them each year. Lori, it's hard because one of the things that's happened with recycling, and you're gonna see it in more years coming forward, the amount of junk mail,
Yes.
the amount of glass products have really went down. So the only thing we got is that weight, and you're gonna see the weight kind of start to level off here because everything's lighter. You don't get as much junk mail. There's just less paper products too out there. The big thing right now is just to get people to recycle through education and that with our landlords.
Newspapers are smaller, magazines are smaller.
Yep.
Plastic bottles are
Plastic
thinner.
bottles are right.
So maybe it's in sanitation then, where,
Right.
where, I guess what I'm asking is, this is recycling, and if we're being successful there, where do I go look to see the correlating or maybe not correlating?
Well, it doesn't necessarily correlate, it is in the garbage, if you look in the garbage.
Page 151
Page
has it.
151.
But it's not the number you were hoping for.
Right. It's actually, we say it's stable, slightly increasing. There's a variety of reasons for that. Even though we're doing, I think, a pretty good job of getting the increase in our recyclables, on the garbage side, there's still the challenge of people not necessarily following the rules, and you have
Right.
some recyclables getting in here, obviously, but I think the bigger reason for the increase is the simple fact we are getting more houses.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yep.
How many households do we have? I
service
mean,
right
if we've
now-
increased in the number of households,
It
then it's
it
that's
is
a reason that-
increasing.
Yeah, and we service 21,000 right now, just over 21,000 households, and we have been increasing with annexations, and some of the units that didn't get in, landlords that
Right.
didn't get in at the beginning of the
Okay.
sanitation, they can opt back in. They have to send James a letter by October each year, and
Okay.
they can opt back into our
Cause
recycling.
this does not include our apartments, houses that contract separately, correct?
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Okay.
This is just our pickup of what we pick up,
Sure.
4
Okay.
unit and under.
4 units.
Gotcha.
The fees held its own, that was an issue on the recycling side. 'Cause
There
we-
was some restoration this year, in the governor's new, budget that has just passed, which is increasing our revenue from the state slightly, but everything helps. The other thing I would add that is important to note is we have recently purchased trucks for the recycling division, and where we see a return on that is part of the grant we get to claim that depreciation. So when we are purchasing equipment and our equipment isn't fully depreciated, we are able to capture that back through that grant process. So getting some return on that investment through the recycling utility. So are there any other questions on recycling? Then we can move forward to the garbage. The garbage is in Fund 212. This is a fund that does receive levy, and currently that's the significant source of funding right now. So I would.
Yeah, I think, just a little bit of background, I think rather obviously the primary focus of the division is to provide regular collection of garbage for our residential property owners. I think one thing that we need to remember as well is this division is also responsible for the maintenance and management of properties formerly utilized as municipal landfills. So Quarry Park, Knapp Street quarries, that ongoing maintenance and management of those facilities, and in the future, Keenest and Paulus will be coming up into that mix as well as, so the cost of operating those methane collection systems comes out of this budget. As I mentioned with
$100,000.
As I mentioned with recycling, garbage and recycling both continue to be, among the highest rated scores on the annual citizen survey. The biggest increase, looking at this budget, estimates in the increase in landfill tipping fees, account for more than the total amount that we're requesting this budget be increased by. So it's, the overall increase is something that is, really outside of our control with the $1 a ton increase that Winnebago County is imposing.
Unfortunately, that is an increase that is an annual increase. It's one that I've had since I arrived here at the city. So every year we're going up that $1.
So if we are going forward looking at any kind of, I don't know, maybe it's not initially curbside, but composting, and we reduce the cost of that transport or tipping by a percentage. And I think the numbers out there right now is that 40% of food that consumers are purchasing is, going into the garbage. So are we, I don't know, do we have our eye on that at all as a potential savings?
You guys looked at?
We have looked at the composting. We do have, we work with UWO on the yard waste right now, but we haven't really went any farther on it, Lori, at this point.
Okay, just curious. Thanks.
Just because of the manpower and that involved with it.
Okay, then we can move forward. Our next budget that we would want to talk about would be the 3 utilities.
What did we, oh yeah, no, fine, I'll follow you.
So, in our last workshop prior to this one, we did go over in detail the cash flow analysis of the utilities, and we had John Cameron from Ellers come and meet with the Common Council in regards to this. Want to start with this budget presentation is really, let's go back to the rate impact, because one of the contributing factors in our proposed budgets are what does it mean to the rates. And so what I have just provided the Common Council are the 3 proposed rate increases for the 3 utilities, as well as the last page, which highlights the impact of these proposed rate increases on your average ratepayer, and that would look like that. And so we can kind of start.
Oh. I got one coming in.
That one that didn't get hooked.
So if we look at the water one, you'll see what we are proposing for the water utility is a 8% rate increase for 2018. This is a utility which you will recall we generally only try to do a rate increase every other year. And the reason that is because of the comprehensive amount of the review process and needing to go through the Public Service Commission. Due to our assets having an ability to be placed in service, you have the potential to do what's called a two-step rate increase. And so that is what we are looking at proposing with the water tower coming online, as well as the Clearwell project. We see a need for the utility and a demonstrated cash flow need to do the two-step rate increase. And so what we're proposing and looking at would be the 8% in 18 and the 7% in 19. Do you have anything, James, that?
No, I think the biggest thing is, with water utility, all rate increases go through the Public Service Commission. So, there's a time that it takes to review those at the Public Service Commission before they provide any decisions. So at this point, it's just an estimate that, we've worked with Ellers to get, all of our numbers submitted and sent in, so they can start their review process.
The Clearwell program, just refresh my memory, basically, it's the DNR that says we need to fix this, even though there's no issue with the underground wells.
Yeah, it really dating back about 10 years, the DNR identified, our underground storage tanks, or the clear wells, as being deficient in their what they refer to as their sanitary survey of the water filtration plant. And where they cited that deficiency is that groundwater elevation is higher than the elevation that the tanks are storing treated drinking water. So their concern is that if a tank were to have a leak, it would allow groundwater to interact with our treated drinking water. Our water utility staff do routinely empty those tanks. There's 3 tanks, so they can isolate and take one down for inspection and make sure that we don't have any issues, or if we do, to work on resolving those issues. Those clear wells are, I would go so far as to say, the oldest pieces of infrastructure that the utility has at this point in time. We don't have an exact date on the oldest of them, but we believe it to be mid to late 1800s construction, so 1880s, 1870s on the oldest of the tanks. The newest of the clear wells was constructed in 1915 or 1916, so the newest one is over 100 years old as well.
One thing I think, I know I hear from a lot of citizens is, the rate increases and things. I do think it's important, and I know, I think we send it out in our tax bill or whatever, where the money's being spent, but I think it would be important for our citizens to see where we stack up with other communities. Because we constantly, we're so high, we're higher than this community, we're higher than that community. And I know that we have seen that analysis. But if there's a way we could get that out to our citizens at the same time to show them that we are not higher than a lot of the other communities, we're actually in the middle. But I also think it's important, and I know we stress it a lot in our CIP in that the utility helps pay for street construction and those types of things, and that I think it continues to be important to let the citizens know what that money gets used for.
And that's definitely something that we can drive data on and bring forward as and probably in our next workshop would be a good place for that, to show where we do rank in our comparable communities. The last time we did look at it, you are right, Councilmember Herman, we do tend to fall right in the middle of the range. One of the contributing factors in our rates, it's twofold. One would be our need for capital investment. When we are doing the road work and the road reconstructions, that is the appropriate time to be
Replacing all the underground
replacing that
utilities.
infrastructure, and that's the most cost-effective time. So we've got a lot of investment going into our water utility. And the other factor there is the debt service that pays for that capital investment. Those are two figures that are factors that will continue to drive our rates. As we go forward, I think we do need to start looking at a more conservative capital investment to try to start to bring down that debt service levels. But we still do have some outdated infrastructure that it's in the best interest of having good, reliable services for our utility to continue that aggressive replacement schedule. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, James.
Well, I think, one of the things to keep in mind, we have approximately 300 miles of water main in the city, and conservatively, if we get a 100-year service life, that would mean, we need to be replacing, at least 3 miles a year. I know in recent years, we have not been there. This year, I think with some of the utility-only projects, we're probably right about there. And, next year we've got, some more neighborhoods where we've had a history of water main breaks, significant numbers of breaks where we're just going to be going in and replacing water main because, in the one neighborhood, it's all cold mix streets, so it's, pavement restoration is, relatively simple. The other utilities, storm sewer, sanitary sewer, are not, anywhere near needing to be replaced, but, water utility is out, almost on a weekly basis digging in some of these streets because of the break history. One of the things, for whatever reason, manufacturing of, the pipes in the mid-60s to early 70s, there seems to be some issues where we're experiencing a lot of breaks in that vintage of main.
Can we answer any other questions until or would you like to move on to the sewer utility? So our next cash flow analysis would be for the sewer utility. You'll see that we are proposing a 8.5% rate increase for this utility. Again, this is another utility that is truly driven by the needed capital infrastructure as well as the need to have sufficient debt service coverage in our rate covenants. The projection that you are seeing does level off as we continue down this road of investment in our sewer utility. And James, you can probably talk about some of the current projects that we're currently looking at in this new budget year.
Yeah, I think, some of the big projects that we've got going on from a sewer utility standpoint, the biggest one I would go so far as to say is the extension of a large interceptor sewer down Oregon Street. As council may recall, we had, quite a bit of discussion about how we wanted to reconstruct Oregon Street. This utility sanitary interceptor is a big part of getting that project started. As of right now, we've got some development looking to take place on the far south side of the city at Oregon and Ripple, and we don't have adequate capacity in the existing system to be able to allow a full build out of that development at this point in time. So that development is being phased in as we continue to work on improving our ability to serve that area. Certainly as things either take off or maybe not as quickly in the aviation business park, that will also give us an indication as to how much we can allow that development to continue to grow while we continue to extend our sanitary service down Oregon Street. Another big project that we're working on, we just talked about it at the last council meeting with the Mary Jewel lift station and getting some of the sanitary sewer in that neighborhood replaced so we can eliminate some old creek crossings of Sawyer Creek, and also one that was intended to be temporary but was built in 2012. So we really do need to work on getting that replaced because it has caused a little bit of an increased potential for a backup in one particular home. Thankfully, it has not been a significant issue, but we don't want to, we're always only one big rainstorm away from the next challenge or problem with both the storm and the sanitary. So we need to try to get those systems in that neighborhood upgraded to be able to reduce those impacts for those residents.
Okay. So that would lead us into the stormwater cash flow analysis. In this cash flow analysis, what we are recommending is a rate increase of about 7.5%. This is also a utility where you are seeing in this projected analysis that we are starting to step down those rate increases. This is what is considered to be a young utility, not as mature as the water and sewer, because it hasn't been around as many years. We do have a tremendous of development and investment that we've seen in the stormwater utility, but one of the items that we've tried to do is to step the projects to help minimize the rate impact. When I first arrived, we were doing 2 major projects a year and have now stepped down into 1 project a year. But I'll let James go into further detail about the anticipated or requested projects.
Yeah, I think, as Trina mentioned, there was a big push, especially following, the event of 2008 to, put some significant focus on stormwater management and reducing the impacts of flooding. That did result in us, targeting 2 major stormwater management projects per year. It was a challenge, but we were able to do that for several years. But then, as we started to take a little bit longer term look at the financials of it, and as Trina got on board and we started looking at this more long term with others, we very quickly realized that is a pace that we could not continue and, be responsible to the ratepayers. So we have scaled that back. To try and do 1 major project a year to continue making progress, because there are several watersheds within the city that do require attention and efforts. There are also other watersheds that have had significant improvements. One of the big things that as we've stepped up our street reconstruction program, the stormwater utility has taken a lot of effort and gone through a lot of effort to make sure that we have been doing some very in-depth modeling to make sure that the systems that we're installing as we are doing street reconstruction programs, meet a design standard that we've established, which is really to keep a 10-year design storm or 10% likelihood in any year, keep that water off the street completely. A 25-year design storm or a 4% probability in any year, keep the driving lanes clear. There might be a little water in the parking lane, but keep the driving lanes clear. And 100-year design storm or a 1% probability, keep it in the right of way. Don't let it, kind of overflow and get onto neighboring properties. So that's kind of been a goal, a design guideline that we've established in the utility. And our modeling efforts in conjunction with our street reconstruction program have really driven the storm sewer needs to meet those goals that we've established.
So most importantly, what do these requested rate increases mean to our ratepayers? And that is on the last sheet that we provided. And what it does is it brings together what a average ratepayer bill, what this means to them. And so what we are proposing with these anticipated rate increases is about $18.73 per ratepayer. It is something that these rates have been consistent in our model, and what we are asking is that, and this is per bill, so $18.73 per bill, so of a quarterly bill. The one thing that we have heard from the Common Council is the need to look at
the monthly billing to help our ratepayers and help them better manage their utility rates. That is something that we are wanting to bring online with the new ERP. But so the 1873 would be per quarter for our ratepayers, and that would be for an average user.
So as it shows in the far right column, it'll be across the board about an 8.11% increase for 2018. And with stormwater, you know, one of the things, even the assets, if you take a look at page 170, the assets of the utility have grown by 33% over the course of 3 years. We are still in a growth mode, as Trina mentioned, and that's going to be a function of making sure we charge adequate rates to replace and recover those assets as they come up for replacement, which won't be for a while, but you know, you're going to see a window of 25 years where we're doing, you know, massive amounts of projects, and that's going to be from about 2010 till 2030. We're going to be doing a lot of projects, and so our asset base will continue to grow at a fairly good clip. The percentage increase will go down, but dollar-wise, we're still going to be seeing a several $1 million a year increase in assets.
It's making up for a period of time where, you know, the storm sewer infrastructure wasn't a focus, and you know, that's resulted, you know, in conjunction with some of the changes in rainfall events, that's resulted in the flooding events that, you know, we've experienced, and that's why the utility's taken such a thorough stance at modeling all of these watersheds as we're getting ready to do projects to make sure that the infrastructure we're putting in the ground is capable of conveying the runoff that's going to be generated. Yes, Lori?
Just a question, James, on page 169 on the sewer utility, let's see, under positions, it looks like there's a $27,000 increase on a liquids operator 2, but it doesn't look like we're increasing the number of employees. Is that one person's increase in salary?
Which
It
one?
goes from 388.8 up to 415.9, about middle of the.
Well, the budget number goes from 420 down to 415. The estimated expenditure is what you're looking at. I believe, Steve, we had some vacancies there this year.
Yeah, that's typically vacancies that haven't been filled over a period of time.
I see, okay.
Probably should have, under current actual, it probably should have said 7, but
okay,
did you
that's
just
what
recently
I was.
fill that?
Well, we have this flux of vacancies and filling, and it sometimes we'll have 2, get one filled, get another one filled, so I think, yeah, we just, this year, I think we actually filled 2 vacancies to get back to full staffing again.
One of my first visits to the wastewater treatment plant, I think I just said, you know, tell me your name and how long you've been here. And the number of people that had been there 30 years, because the plant got expanded in 1978, it was 2008 when I did that little welcome, tell me how long you've been here. And the number of people that said they were here 30 years was phenomenal. When we expanded the plant in 1978, we hired a bunch of people, and all those people are now
I think
retiring.
we only have 1 left in that group that's got 30-year plus. I think we've turned over just about the entire staff at wastewater in the 15 years that I've been there.
That turnover has just been significant.
Yeah, and we do have some challenges sometimes filling those positions, so sometimes they sit open for a fair amount of time while we try and find someone that's well-suited and properly credentialed and things to fill those positions. So I think that's what's reflected in that. An actual number may be lower based on vacancies and not having spent while a position's been vacant.
Are there any other questions that we can address, or how the Common Council would like us to walk through the utility budgets?
So much of this is based on the capital improvement program, so that's where you're gonna, the operations are pretty much dictated to by
Yeah, I
EPA
mean,
and
with
DNR.
power and chemicals and maintenance and things, you know, really we're pretty well flat in those areas. We've had some pretty favorable chemical costs the last couple of years. Power isn't going up significantly. You know, for the most part, our budget is pretty much flat. There's not a lot of additional expense in.
Okay. Then we can go back to the first two budgets. Public Works Administration on page 127.
Thank you, Steve. Okay. Really not much to this particular one. The Administration Division in Public Works really provides support to all the other divisions within the department, and as well as coordinating all of our interdepartmental functions. You know, as you can see, looking at the personnel page on administration, it consists of 3 people, Steve, myself, and Tracy, our administrative assistant. So that's really our administration division.
So if the council, do you have any questions in regards to administration?
Just the health insurance, the budgeted amount for 17, the estimated expenditure.
The challenge there is, you know, we have staff that, you know, until open enrollment takes place between, you know, here and spouse's employer, it's never really known which route they're going to go for health insurance. So instead of, you know, guessing low and coming in over budget, we've tended to budget for it, and then, you know, if they decide to go with the spouse, then we come in a little lower. So that's, again, as Trina mentioned before, when you have a very small division, you know, some of those things are pronounced, but that's what it is.
Okay. So then our last public works budget would be the engineering department or division. So James, if you'd like to provide some of the highlights.
Yeah, engineering division's primary responsibility is, you know, managing construction projects. Engineering division's responsible for the survey, design, and inspection of our annual street reconstruction program, the asphalt overlay program, sanitary sewer, water main, and storm sewer design, as well as coordinating long-range planning for all 3 of the utilities. The division also spends a significant amount of time assisting other departments in planning and managing construction projects. For example, in the past year, engineering has assisted the Parks Department with the work that they've had going on out at 24th Avenue boat launch, as well as helping them get some of the paving done at some of their playgrounds. In 2017, engineering was also able to assist transportation in doing design and construction management of the parking lot reconstruction program. That's going to be difficult to continue to provide that service with our current level of staffing. So we're working very closely with transportation to make sure that, you know, they understand with our current staffing what projects we can and are not able to assist them with. One of the other things that we've done this year is we worked with the Information Technology Division to implement smartphones for our field staff in particular, but also our engineers, to help increase our productivity and communication ability back and forth with our field staff. One of the big challenges we historically have had is, you know, our inspectors would call up our project managers and say, hey, we've got, you know, this, and we'd be, well, can you just send us a picture? Well, we never could just send a picture, so then our project manager would have to, you know, run out to the field and take a look at what's going on and evaluate it. So by implementing the smartphones, they'll have access to their email, so they can take a picture and email it to us right in the office. So then, you know, while we're on the phone with them, we can be looking at it and helping them evaluate what they're seeing and what's going on with the construction projects.
James, on 134, it appears you're filling a position and moving a position.
Steve, you want to tackle that one?
Sure, I'll help them to do that. What it is historic. We've had 2 lead civil engineering techs historically. They've primarily been the survey crew leads. As our staff has developed and changed over, the lead person need as the surveyor hasn't been there, and what we're finding is we're ending up with some more experienced staff in some of the other positions. They're not necessarily the lead. Right now, what we're trying to do is come up with a way to come up with a qualifications-based methodology to get the techs kind of in either a 1, 2, or 3, or some sort of ranking system where we have our entry-level tech, our tech with mid-grade certifications, and then one that really has a lot of the certifications that make them more valuable to the city. So we're trying to develop that right now. This was the means basically of holding a little bit of funding in reserve by having a position underfilled, essentially in responsibility, until we can sort that out.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question? So in the engineering or in any of our departments, so do you, does your department do the active talent recruitment, or is that more over in HR? So your pipeline, what you're building, is that internal?
The personnel recruitment is really a cooperative effort between, whichever division or department is looking for staff and human resources. For example, when we were recruiting some staff in engineering about a year ago, we sat down primarily, depending on the position. If it was one of the supervisors, Steve and I sat down with personnel, or one of the other positions, it'd be one of the supervisors, and Steve would sit down with personnel and go through, make sure the position descriptions were where we wanted them, and also really coordinate and make sure that where the postings were getting to would be useful for us. One of the things we found in the past is, especially our entry-level positions, when they were getting sent to the universities, they weren't necessarily getting sent to the engineering colleges at the universities. They were getting sent to the primary university, and they were getting posted in buildings where engineers never set foot. So we worked to make sure that when we had postings, they were getting sent directly to the pertinent engineering schools, and they were getting posted on the bulletin boards where engineers are walking by and looking at things. I think that was one of the big changes that we've seen over the last 5 years or so, is just making sure that we've got that communication, saying, okay, I need you to post it, at this school, but in these areas, and getting those lines of communication open with those engineering colleges on the universities.
I think that's all we have on the operating side of Public Works. Obviously, the CIP is always the big one. We did call ahead to Jeff Gilderson Dewey, so he's in transit. What I can suggest is maybe we take a brief break. If Jeff's not here when the break's over with,
thank you,
we can do finance. And then we'll do Jeff, and then we can go to closed session. Fortunately, City Clerk Ubrig worded it in such a way that we can have closed session immediately upon the completion of our budget work session. So you don't have to sit and wait around until 5 o'clock. Oh, mercifully.
Why not?
So, want to take a 10-minute break or so?
Go ahead.
The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM.
They want to hear the story.
Library.
My neighbor was talking.
We're ready to begin with the library. It's on page 339. We have our library director here with us to oversee and present the highlights of his budget to you. So I'll turn it over.
Not a lot to say about this budget. It's, the instructions that we received from the finance director and the manager were to keep our operating budget requests level to 2017 and allowable increases in compensation and benefits areas as instructed by the finance director. We fulfilled that requirement. Our contractual services budget line includes a $10,000 deposit into our technology replacement fund that we weren't able to fund last year, so there's a difference. Our library materials expenditures are expected to, we're moving some money from library materials into the budget lines that support public programming, because we are shifting our emphasis away from being a warehouse of stuff over to being a place where learning experiences happen. And so we're making that attendant shift in resources as well. The one note, you won't really see this in the personnel, but I'll talk about it. Last year, you may recall, I proposed an additional position at the library that we were intending to call a community engagement librarian. In this year's personnel budget, which is on page 343, we're going to eliminate a couple of our 11-hour-a-week shelver page positions and then combine them into a currently vacant librarian position that's a 3/4 position now. We're going to increase it to a full-time position and then recruit for that community engagement role. Really the high points. It's a very plain vanilla library budget. Not a lot of change.
Jeff, with the cut into the staff you're talking about, is that going to have an impact on your day-to-day operations?
We have been seeing a steady trend of reduction in circulation of physical library materials. We've also seen an increase in the use of digital library materials. So that means we have a decreasing need to shelve and move physical materials. So the positions that I'm eliminating and shifting to that librarian position, those are the folks that do our shelving.
Okay.
For the most part. So
right.
That's a shift that makes sense in light of the fact that we're handling fewer materials.
Okay. And I know you last year really wanted that position, and sorry we couldn't give it to you, so I appreciate you looking into your budget where you think you can make those shifts to get that position, because I do think, and having been at some of the neighborhood get-togethers that the library's been at, it's great to see them out in the community.
And I understand, we're getting to a digital thing. There's just something about the tactile feel of a book in your hand and reading it that you just don't get on a tablet.
Sure. And I mean, the library materials budget is still quite healthy.
Right.
We're proposing $327,000 for physical library material, for library materials, and many of those will be physical materials. So we really haven't received any kind of complaint that we don't have adequate physical materials for checkout. So there's plenty of stuff for you to handle, Tom.
Yeah.
Come on down.
There quite a bit.
By chance, I know last year I was reading some of the community engagement things that went out, and I was wondering some of the information that goes back and forth between the library and the community. This morning we heard from Ministry of Services regarding Oshkosh Media. Are there partnership things that the library is looking at with some of the other departments as a way to, I don't know, increase services and reduce costs?
I'm not quite sure where you're going, but I mean, we are always looking to partner with other city departments. For example, we hired a graphic designer this past year, and he was put right away into the process of helping out with the parking signage and the designs of the parking signage. So, we're always looking for opportunities to partner with the other city departments. The fact that Mark includes me with management team meetings every week, and I get to know all my other department heads, and we have informal and formal conversations, helps to foster that environment of partnership. So we are always looking for those opportunities.
We had that discussion last week when the fire department talked about changing over from handing out the teddy bears to children at fire incidents and changing it over to books. And
Right.
Jeff perked up right away and
That's
said,
right.
I'm in on this.
The fire department and the police department have both gotten grants to shift from providing teddy bears to children in trauma situations to providing a backpack with some books in it. So of course my ears pricked up and said, well, couldn't we get a library card application in that backpack? Couldn't we get a brochure about the library into that backpack? So we'll be contacting the public information folks in both of those departments as well.
Jeff, on your operating, or it's not on your operating budget, but on page 340, under your strategy number 4.
Right.
You show county operating support per capita. Can you just kind of, what is that per capita? Is that per county resident, 4177, or what is that?
No, the first row in that section gives you what is considered by the state to be part of our library service population that are outside the municipal area. And so that's that 13,013 estimated for 2016. We don't have the actual numbers from the state yet on that. The state takes our municipal population and assigns a portion of the county population to us and regards it as being part of our service population.
So that being said, what does the county / townships, what is their support to the library Winnie Fox system?
Under state statute, the county essentially reimburses the library for use by residents of townships that don't support their own municipal public libraries. And they pay a county library tax for that purpose. There's an annual formula for that reimbursement. We work through the county's UW Extension and Agriculture Committee and then to the county execs. So it works through their process, but it's different from other county department budget proposals because it isn't prospective. It looks back and looks for reimbursement for actual use.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Steve?
Yep. Does.
And I would say when you take our levy and divide it by our population, it's comparable in terms of what we get. So it's a fair number.
Okay. Because it looks like only a $6,800 increase in the levy from last year to this year.
Right, very modest. Yeah, that's
right. Okay.
That's because I followed the rules and didn't ask for any more.
And what grants and aids?
Somebody give them a candy bar.
Under grants and aids, Jeff, you want
sir.
to just highlight what those are?
Sure. I have a separate page that's not part of the budget of my revenues that breaks it out. Grants and aids include county funding not only from Winnebago County but from adjacent counties. So we get reimbursement for use from Calumet, Fond du Lac, Green Lake, and Waushara counties as well.
Oh, okay.
And that amounts to something like just under $40,000. Okay. And then we have contractual revenue from the Winnefox library system, both for provision of administrative support, which is my services that are provided to Winnefox as director, as well as our Oshkosh Public Library staff maintain the shared automation database for the entire Winnefox system. And that means whenever new materials are acquired for any of those libraries, we handle the cataloging, we alter it as need be. So we basically handle the database management and support for the entire Winnefox system. And there's a contractual payment of about $190,000 for that purpose.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to let a lot of the citizens know that there is a broad reach and there is support throughout the county, township, and that. So, good.
So, Jeff, could I just ask then, if you were going to increase or put in a request for an increase, would it be more along the lines of going back to that community outreach engagement person, or would it be more along the lines of something like 3D printers and, technology, hard?
Yeah. Lori, in all honesty, since we had 2 significant retirements early in this year, we've just hired a new digital services librarian who's starting in about a week. And then we haven't even really designed this community engagement librarian position yet. So I'd almost have to say we need to bring those people on board and see what their talents are and absorb them into our service operation to really have a better idea what else we need, how else we need to push forward. I feel that we're hiring a really good person to do support for technology and technology programs, but we'll see what that person's capabilities are.
Sure.
And then with this this community engagement role, we're still defining that. So there's going to be some time that we need to go through to absorb those functions and learn what those people can do and have a better idea kind of how our team is shaping up before we would know where we would apply additional resources. So I would say, right now, we're in the stage of evolving into a more kind of programming related environment, and bringing people on board who we hope are going to be able to help us with that. But we need to see how that all plays out before we're really ready to target additional growth that we might want to do.
Jeff, I believe the 2 people that retired this year, they were very knowledgeable about the history of both Oshkosh and the county.
Correct. We have transferred another librarian into that local history and genealogy librarian role. He has an archives and a history background himself. Of course, you don't replace 30 years of knowledge about your community in a day, but I'm confident he'll grow into that role.
They were both great resources.
Absolutely. It's difficult to replace that sort of community memory and organizational memory. You don't do it overnight, but you hire good people and give them the resources that they need in order to grow into those roles, and we're in the process of doing that.
Jeff, just on a different note, do you feel that the current library, in its location, the size of the building, everything meets the needs, or do you anticipate down the line of either expansion or some serious remodeling that council may want to, 5-10 years from now, start thinking about?
Thank you for opening that door.
Why not?
On December 1st, my management team and I are going to go on a field trip to Milwaukee to see some of the kind of innovative branches that Milwaukee Public Library has recently created. On the east side of Milwaukee, they've opened a mixed-use public-private branch that's they're residential condominiums that are part of it on the upper floors and the library on the lower floor. They've also completely remodeled an old department store on the south side on Mitchell Street in Milwaukee, and we're going to visit that as well with the design architects and with a deputy director of Milwaukee Public Library. We're going to ask a lot of questions about we're not the only library that's making this move from being a warehouse to being a place for experiences. And we want to be able to ask questions about what sorts of choices has Milwaukee Public made in trying to realize some of that evolutionary thinking. As part of our expenditure budget for our trust funds this year, we have money to engage with an architectural firm to start looking at a long-term space development plan for the inside of our building. We have some ideas of changes that could happen inside the library that would accommodate these new directions. So it's very possible that we'll be talking with the city manager and hopefully with the council down the road to put in place an interior redevelopment plan for the library down the road. Of course, in all likelihood, phased in over years, not all at once, but we're excited about the kinds of changes that public libraries are doing to try to stay relevant to people, to engage with lifelong learning. We're still going to be a place for books, places for materials that you can hold and enjoy, but we are looking at adapting and developing our building. It's plenty large enough. It's a showpiece. It's a jewel of the community. I think it's some of the most impressive library architecture in the state, and so we want to be respectful of it and be respectful of the way the community values that building, but we also want to develop it and use it in new ways over time.
I think I've actually toured the building that you're referring to, that intergenerational mixed-use building, and there's a lot of focus on those intergenerational experiences. So it would be really interesting to see what you bring back from that, but it also sounds like there is a potential future transition here for the library and how it operates in our community. I'm just curious if you've had an opportunity to have any discussions with Parks Department about senior center and some of that lifelong learning opportunities there.
As I say, we are always trying to engage with our other city departments, and we try to keep those lines of communication open between us and the senior center as well. There are certainly commonalities as far as programming and opportunities for us to work together to reach the community. Of course, they have a much closer focus on who they're trying to reach and how, and we have a broad focus. So we are looking at the entire lifespan, but we want to be engaged with seniors as well, and we're open to any kind of partnership that we can foster with the senior center.
Well, Jeff, you also have a program going with Evergreen Manor, don't you?
Yes, we do have a program of, right now we have a book drop outside Evergreen. They are engaging in some major facility redevelopment as well, and we've had some conversations with how the library might work with them in the space that they're designing that's specifically a library. The director there, Ken Arneson, is a real visionary. He wants to see an interpenetration of his campus with the community. He wants to see the community coming in into his campus, and we are exploring those partnerships as well.
That being said, do we supply any books to those neighborhood little, I guess you could say, libraries?
The little free libraries.
Yeah.
We do not. We don't have a regular program of that. We have held meetings to engage with the folks who are organizing the little free libraries in their communities. We've invited them to have access to some of our used book material or withdrawn book material. They also have access to our used book sale room, which is, if you haven't been there yet, it's permanently open whenever the library's open. It's fresh, new, used book stock, a buck a book almost in every case, so it's a good deal. So we don't have a formal relationship with the little free libraries. We like to encourage people to come to the big free library.
Okay.
Thank you,
Without
Jeff.
any other
Thank you all.
questions,
Appreciate your support.
Thanks, Jeff.
that would lead you to my budgets.
Oh.
Good luck.
Page 21 I start on. So overall, I'm starting with the finance department budget. I have some administrative notes that I just would like you to be aware of. One of the challenges the finance department continues to face is additional mandates and reporting. This year, the Department of Revenue required 2 new reports, one for TIF and one for hotel motel reporting. As we go along and as we continue to receive these mandates, it does impact our ability to perform our daily operations. And we're seeing an increasing amount of new reporting for the federal and state level. One new item that's coming on in 2018 that we're already aware of is from the state, and it's for our WRS program. And it's going to take us from an annual reconciliation of hours and retirement dollars paid out to a bi-weekly reconciliation. It is anticipated that this will create some burden, and the state is continuing to work through it. They were hoping to roll it out on 1/1 of 18. So that's a very good example of they're continually wanting us to drive our numbers up to them and feed them our information. The WRS change will not only just have an efficiency impact, but it will also have an administrative impact. We'll have to report hours for employees that we've never reported for. One of them would be the council. So we'll continue to work through it and educate everyone, but that's a huge change from the payroll perspective, and just a good example of the state is wanting more detailed information from us.
When you say the council, does that mean you had council meetings or meetings like this, or things we...
Hours worked.
Does that include like all our
broad.
phone calls, our hundreds of emails, and?
So that's what we will work to define for you, and find a way to track it, because we will need to report it to the state.
So for every email we get, we gotta tell you, huh? Keep a
Or a
cheat,
phone call.
keep a stat sheet, right?
Yeah, so we'll continue to keep you updated, but wanted to give you kind of a sample of the changes that we face. Through staff attrition, one thing that I'm particularly proud of is a reorganization of the finance department. That's something I worked with the human resources department, and truly with a goal of creating a balanced employee to supervisor ratio and create a new ladder of employee growth and more career ladders for employees to see progression and available opportunities. That's something that I was able to do within my existing payroll dollars, but that was a huge effort with human resources, and I really appreciated their contributions to that. Another important area for finance would be the analysis of the TIF-7, looking at this from not just the cash flow perspective, but also as well as evaluating the fund balance and available cash in all funds. And lastly, one major task, which is just been incredible, and there's no other way to explain it, is the phase 2 of the ERP implementation. My department has partnered very intimately with IT and with purchasing. When you're planning something that's going to impact the whole formation of how the city does business, it really takes a lot of partners, and it takes a lot of time, and everybody coming together with their ideas and helping educate and make that plan of action. This effort is way beyond finance, and feel very lucky to have worked with such competent and committed professionals here at the city. So I'm excited to report out to you what our rollout looks like, because we have our rocky spots, but I think we're working through them, we're planning through them, and I can't wait to report the success of phase 2 and all of the partners and just the better information we're able to give to departments as well as the council. From a budget perspective, I welcome 2 new staff numbers, and I also had 1 employee that had a qualifying event, and so you will see an increase in my health insurance for 2018 of $13,300. And I have proposed no increases in any non-personnel line items. So that would be my summary of my finance.
You are it looks like you're making just kind of a position shift. Looks like lead cashier, you're gonna make that a financial specialist.
Yep, and that's a very good question. That was part of our reorganization, and what we're really trying to do there is maximize our resources. our lead cashier has now become a financial specialist. And so what we're doing is responding to the ebb and flow of the collection season. So instead of having 3 full-time people that are just trained in collections, we are now cross-training, and when the demand is less, we are moving her out and training her in other areas of finance to really just maximize the resources we're given from the Common Council, and also do what I would call build my bench strength. The one thing that I have learned and has become even more important as I've worked in government is people that can cross-function and work in other areas and other departments. And so it's really creating that formation where instead of having 3 full-time cashiers, it's now creating that ability to start to train and develop her to work in other areas to be maximizing those resources. So the next budget would be the independent audit. As you are aware of, you've already approved my office to go forward and engage Shank for our 2000 annual audit services. This cost of the engagement is $400. So they will complete our 2017 audit. Our next budget would be the hydrant rental. I have no changes to report. This is a consistent report as presented in previous years.
It might be good to point out, though, that there's an opportunity that's been
Yes.
reopened, not necessarily for this year, but maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because the door got slammed in our face.
So this is one of the benefits out of the governor's budget this year. He did open up public fire protection as a fee that you could stop billing for and transition onto your utility bill without a negative levy implication. Back about
Year before you got here, we tried to do this, and the state stopped us and said, if you transfer this over, cities that are basically fully watered in their utility have made this transition to put it all on the water bill because everybody benefits, everybody's a customer. Cities that have a mix of maybe not everybody's in municipal water, you do put it on the tax bill because people who are not part of the utility benefit from they call it hydrant rental, but it's really the availability of water for fire. But since we are all watered in the city, it would be justified to move it onto the water utility, but it said a few years ago, if you did that, you'd have to have an equal decrease in your tax levy, which effectively made it not worth doing. They've removed that requirement, so that's a possibility that if we were in a little bit of a tight squeeze, we could transfer some of this over. But we don't have to do it for this year, and right now it's a biennial budget, so perhaps looking ahead to 2019, you always want to have tools in your belt for the following year. We might have that ability later on to reduce this, move it over to the water utility. Of course, we just had a discussion about water utility bills. They're still going up at a hefty clip. If that's something you want to do, but we have that in our hip pocket for future reference. But given the fact that it got slammed, the door got slammed on us a few years ago, now this door appears to be reopened. Not that they won't slam it in our face again, but it's there in case.
So our next budget would be the unclassified budget. This is a significant budget for the city, so I'll go over some details with you. This fund continues to fund city expenditures which do not have a specific departmental budget. Some of the items that are funded through this unclassified fund, examples would be strategic planning, quality of life campaign, city survey, state of the city, bond service fees, write-offs, whether they're ambulance, personal and property taxes, and pay for performance. This year was the first year that the city funded general fund retirement payouts directly through this fund versus the departmental individual operating budgets. Traditionally,
I'm sorry, when you say this year was the first year we did that?
2017 is the
Okay.
first year we have funded those, yep.
We funded it and funded it in this general account.
Yep. So traditionally, the city had been able to fund these retirement payouts within the departmental operation budgets by holding positions open and through salary savings and recruitment. But with the amount of the increased baby boomers going out and seeing more people leaving in a year, we're no longer able to absorb those directly into each department's budget. With our existing demographics of our workforce, I anticipate that needed funding will increase for retirement payouts in the general fund. And
So
this
is that where that proposed 626,000 increase over this year is coming
yes,
from?
that is partially made up there.
It's all pay for performances are also in there, but the primary number is about $427,000 is budgeted there for these payouts.
That's the adjustment of salaries?
Yeah, so 427, so all but about 200,000 is for those types of payouts.
And the 200,000 is for pay for performance.
What else, is there anything else in there, or is that?
We have it's primarily pay for performance.
And that uncollectible accounts keeps going up, as you mentioned, I think it was in the budget report, because most of our ambulance calls are for people in the Social Security range or Medicare range and those that don't have insurance.
Yeah, in ambulance, the primary would be the uninsured or their
Private pay.
private payers.
Right term.
Does the uncollectibles also count for those that foreclosures and stuff?
Yes.
Taxes?
Yeah.
Okay.
And another item that we see is when properties go through the tax lien process at the county, once they sell that property, if they do not have enough proceeds to pay off the back taxes, that then also comes back and has to be written off also. So unfortunately, we are seeing a larger number of those, which is good because it's coming on the tax roll then, but just needing to complete that write-off then.
Are we first in line to be paid once the county sells the property?
No, the county is, because they pay the taxes, don't they?
When they're foreclosed, we've already been paid our
Right.
taxes,
By the
so the county gets the money.
But then are we first in line to purchase the property from the county?
No, the county makes us whole. If there's, let's say, a $100 tax bill, we get about a third of it, about $33. If that property owner does not pay the tax bill, the county still pays us our $33.
Right.
So when they go to a sheriff sale or take it for taxes, they get all the proceeds because they've already paid us and the school district and everybody
But
else.
do we have the first opportunity for purchasing those? I thought there was some discussion of that previously. Maybe that's only on HUD homes.
Yeah, I think maybe HUD homes, because sometimes we have liens with our programs, but no, the county gets first dibs because they're the ones holding the bag. I was gonna have a question, but it kind of relates to this. The payout we did to the county for the Buckstaff property, did that come out of here, or did that come?
Yes, that
So
would come out of
that was one of the reasons that number's high, because remember, we agreed to pay the county their share, because that was a case where the county didn't want the Buckstaff property. Nobody wanted the Buckstaff property, but the school district and us agree, and the technical college agreed to make the county whole on that, and so that's why some of our bumped up a little bit for us, because now it's considered an uncollectible tax.
And what falls under our miscellaneous contract services? Is that, we already have an audit account, so what would be
Yep.
miscellaneous contractual services in that area?
So we have, we pay Shank for our 1094, 1095, so that's a tax form that has to go out. Walter Jankowski does our strategic planning.
Okay.
We have quality of life campaign. And then we have just smaller ones for the city survey, the state of the city, And legal professional fees is the largest part. It's about $100,000.
That's under unclassified, not just that 6466.
0914.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we've talked about it before, but under the mobile home tax, we have, what, 3 mobile home parks, 4 in the city now? Is that a negotiated price, or how is that tax amount?
That's based on value that,
Of each of the properties within the park?
yeah, and it's just, it's conglomerated here, and then we have to pay out.
Yeah.
I have a question. That pay for performance, is that calculated inside or outside of the kind of across the board increases that we have discussions about?
These are outside of those. Those are, we don't exactly know who is going to get a pay performance bonus, for lack of a better term, or a bump. So all we do is budget the across the boards in the departmental budgets. Pay performance is here, and then it goes out from there. So this will end up being not spent in this account, but it gets spent in the other account.
Okay.
And those are 500, 750, and 1,000 increments, right?
1,000 and 500.
Okay.
Correct, Fitz?
Yep.
Okay.
Snuck in here just for that question.
I could, yeah, I'm sure you did. Yeah, his ears are burning, imagine.
So the one item that I did want to communicate to the council is that we are anticipating our retirement payouts to go over what we had anticipated for 2017. And for 2018, I did increase the funding to pay for these payouts by about $138,500. The city is anticipating a very large amount of retirees for 2018 in multiple departments, police and fire being the largest departments.
And when we pay out vacation, paid a holiday, sick time?
Half a
sick time.
Up to 75 days.
Okay, and then what else is in there? Okay. Now, they have to take it and payout, right? They can't hold it on account. And let's say they stay under the county's insurance under COBRA.
No,
we don't apply it towards their payments. Okay. And that's taxable, right? I mean, that comes as a taxable check to the employee?
Correct, yeah. The other thing that we pay out of there is the ICMA for our police and fire represented employees. In lieu of a sick leave payout, they can take what's called a dump of their sick leave payout. In lieu of getting that payout at the end, it gets put into their ICMA retirement corp, or their deferred comp account. That's allowed the last 3 years. The advantage for us is that it's paid out at today's rates versus a future rate, and they can do that for 3 years after a certain age. And usually, not always, but usually that's usually when they're planning for retirement. So they just get that, they start doing that now. In lieu of that payout at the end, it just, but the advantage for us is that it's spread out over a longer period and that it's a lesser rate. The advantage for them is they get it into their deferred comp account and they can grow if the market goes up, and that's their choice, but it has to go into the deferred comp account. Generally, if you see a police and fire guy today going over into that room next door, it's because they're meeting with the ICMA Retirement Corp advisor this morning.
So that would be the highlights of the unclassified fund. The next fund would be what I call the equipment fund. This is where we budget for our more short-term capital assets. The one main highlight I'd like for you to know is the funding has been reduced. It's been reduced to $108,400. I would recommend attempting to fund this at the previous level of $1 million in 2018 or 2019 to help minimize the offset and impact, to help minimize the offset and decrease the note issuance. If we're able to pay the cash or the levy up front, then we're not putting it on the 10-year note, and it helps sustain that equipment vehicle replacement. So that is one thing that if the council is able to restore, the one item that we do have is the ICI $63,800. That is coming in as a savings. If we can get that back up closer to the million, that would be a good move for the city. The next item would be the debt service. The one thing that I would highlight for you in this is that it has increased funding of $694,600. Staff recommends attempting to fund the equipment fund at the previous levels to help offset that principal and interest payment and help spread out that note issuance and produce sufficient revenue for short-term capital assets. So the budget impact of no longer having available fund balance. The other item that we have is we used to do what was called the appropriation from the debt service fund. That's on page 33. You'll see that we had traditionally funded through the fund balance and reduced the required levy and debt service. We have now brought that fund balance to what I would call to an adequate level. It's about 500,000. So we're at a point where we can no longer apply that and reduce the levy. And so that is one item that is impacting our budget this year, because where in previous years we had reduced the levy with that. It's at a good level right now. You could potentially utilize some of that, but I would advise tremendous caution because of the level of debt service that we have. So I did want to go over that appropriation from the debt service fund. Does anybody have any questions on the debt service?
You know, I put it into my budget message, but I think it bears repeating because we are being a little more diligent about borrowing for the right length of time. You know, we're borrowing for a shorter term, and the best analogy I can use for anybody is it's doing a 30-year mortgage versus a 15-year mortgage. Certainly, the mortgage payment's lesser with a 30-year mortgage, but you're not paying it off as quickly. We've moved a lot of debt into 10-year debt because we looked at it and said, you know, if it's 12 years, you really should be borrowing for 20 years. It's longer than 10, but still. So we've disciplined ourselves to get ourselves down to 10-year debt on that type of stuff. If it's less than 20 years, even if it's 19-year life, we still are now putting that into a 10-year note if possible. And because of that, our principal payments are up more, but our interest payments over the long term are going to get down. But half of our levy increase is due to that. But I think that's a good increase because we're paying off things earlier, and you can never regret paying down debt sooner. And that's in the fact that you've got that phenomenon at the same time as we just get ourselves below 70% for the first time in probably 15 years, close to it. You know, that we've really accomplished something, and I'd hate to reverse ourselves at this point.
And that's one of the benchmarks that we've continually seen in our annual Moody's rating, that they want to see our short-term debt to be larger than our long-term debt. It's a metric that they are showing and wanting to see in our financial and our fiscal diligence. And so I think that now that we have achieved that, it's important that we do maintain that, because that will also help us maintain our 70% debt obligation. And so the two factors go hand in hand, and both have benefit for the city. So that would take us through the debt service. The last budget that I have is the police and fire pension fund, and I would just tell you that it's consistent with prior years, and there is no funding requested again in this budget.
there's no questions there, I was gonna suggest that maybe we jump to my budget. We were planning to do that late tomorrow, but,
Yeah, it's just,
I had Diane call ahead and tell the staff that we're planning to come to closed session, that things were going ahead of schedule, and so I said, shoot for 3 o'clock. I don't know if we're even need 10 minutes on my budget, but we can go through your budget as well, which is normally when we go through the city manager's budget, we also do the council's budget, which is on the front end. Council's budget is on the first tab of general government, page 13. And the budget's due to go up slightly with the increases that have been previously authorized. As you recall, council salaries cannot go up until at the beginning of a new term. So this, I believe, is the last adjustment that was made from the last time the council approved that budget. We are continuing to make sure that we have an adequate conference and training budget for the council to attend League of Municipalities. And I think the payback has absolutely come to the city in terms of you being engaged in public policy issues at the state level. We're being heard. I mean, the rental inspection program, I almost think we almost went too far because we were all there by ourselves. Now we're back to a spot where we're one of many, but we're still a very influential group at the table, and I thank the mayor for being part of that. I remember a few years ago I was trying to talk council into not cutting their own budget on this issue, and now I think we're in a good spot where the council is engaged, and we are definitely getting our return on our investment for going to those things. Similarly, our membership dues are just a reflection of our membership in the League of Municipalities. Just so council knows, I did not renew the chamber, our membership in the chamber this year. I've been asked multiple times, and I just indicated that I didn't feel it was appropriate given political nature of some of the activities of the chamber. I'd certainly leave that up to you, but it was my intent not to renew unless I heard otherwise, and I didn't hear otherwise. So I just took the silence as a message. So that comes out of this budget, but it was not paid this year.
And that's effective when?
That was actually effective May 1.
Oh, okay.
And so I did not make the payment. I just got probably a fourth notice. Probably gotten one every month since then, but I have not returned it and indicated to Mr. Casper that we weren't going to be renewing. Just felt to keep it separated. They're certainly, they have a right to lobby and do that. Every advocacy group in town does, whether it's a business interest or labor interest or anything like that.
What was that?
But not against a member.
Well, that's. I passed on concerns that I had heard, so I'm sorry.
What was the costs for that?
It was only about $350.
Okay.
Now, the downside is that could put us on the outside looking in terms of qualifying for being part of the Leadership Oshkosh program, which I think is very valuable to us. That doesn't mean that we can't be in there because we're a significant contributor to the programming wise. I mean, we probably are responsible for about 3 to 4 of their 9 programs because Government Day and Education Day, the library's there.
Museum is the first.
Museum's there for History Day. Community Development's there for multiple different days. So we contribute quite a bit. But again, I just wanted to bring it out because we haven't discussed this since last year, and last year I was simply asked, where is that in the budget? It's in your account.
Well, one thing going back to the league and also testifying in Madison, I think there's more and more communities down there now because we have really been kind of the lead community going down there. The rental program, first of all, then dark stores. So I think it's growing. Our voice is growing down there.
And it's being present that people know we're there, and they're going to see us there on a consistent basis. So that's your budget. And then my budget has a slight increase. I'd mentioned to you conferences and training. I'll be expected to go to more conferences, but if I do the vice president position next year, the extra meetings that are required will be paid for by ICMA, not by the city. But the regular conferences, the regional meetings and stuff like that, I probably don't go to them as often, but there'll be more expectations of that. And as far as, oh no, I can talk about that stuff later, but my conferences and training is up a little bit because I need to go to the regular meetings more often, but any of the extra things as part of the duties won't require anything from the city, and I sent you an email about that the other day. And that's really all I have in that, unless you have any questions about my budget. Otherwise, I think that we're set for the day. Tomorrow we have, in the morning, we have public safety. We start with transportation and go with fire and police, and then parks and museum in the afternoon. And we'll do CIPs for all those departments tomorrow. Other than that.
Can we take a 5-minute
Yeah.
break?
If you need to do the motion and vote to go into closed session.
Can they do that now?
Before we break?
Can they do that now?
You could do it now
let's do
and
that.
then take the break.
It's sort of like we,
Yeah.
So I have to call to order the, I call to order, where's Pam?
You're already in the meeting, you just.
She wants you to adjourn this.
Oh.
And you can go into closed session.
right, so then I'm gonna move, we adjourn the budget.
No, I want you to do the motion to go into closed
All
session
right.
first.
That's what I was trying to do.
Who has a script?
I don't
There's
have.
no script.
Oh, there's no, I didn't give a script.
Oh, we gotta
Okay, I have to call to
previous
order
one.
the October 30th meeting of the Oshkosh Common Council. Would the city clerk please take the roll?
I will take the roll for the council. I'll note that all council members are present.
Is that the right one?
The deputy mayor would like to make a motion.
Well, here we go. Town council may convene closed session to discuss bargaining options, strategies, parameters, and terms related to negotiation of possible agreement for the redevelopment of a portion of Lakeshore Municipal Golf Course pursuant to section 19.85, parent 1, parent E of the Wisconsin State Statutes, where competitive bargaining reasons require a closed session.
Second.
Take the roll.
I'll take the roll. Palmieri?
Aye.
Herman?
Aye.
Allison Osby?
Aye.
Peck?
Aye.
Krause?
Aye.
Bansky?
Aye.
Mayor Cummings?
Aye. I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye.